Well, rain, not much light. It's probably not the nicest day to go out for a boat test, but to be honest, when you're talking about sports boats, suddenly the weather doesn't matter. I'm Matthew Sheahan, I'm the racing and technical editor for Yachting World, and I'm aboard one of J-Boat's latest launches, the J88, and we went out to go and put this new sports boat through her paces. One of the first things you notice about this boat when you hoist the main is how skinny the main is. It's very tall, it's very high aspect ratio mainsail, and to be honest, it looks quite small. And that, combined with a non-overlapping headsail, makes for a very high aspect ratio sail plan. Now the first mistake is to look at it and think, oh, that looks a little bit underpowered. But the fact of the matter is that under the waterline, the rudder and the keel are both quite skinny foils. It's all in this modern style of high performance foils on high performance boats. And the first mistake you make is to think that it's going to be easy to balance the two, because sometimes it isn't. The basic facts are she's a lovely little boat to sail. She's tiller steered, she's very responsive, and everything's in the right place. Control lines are all easy to hand. But what's particularly interesting when you go upwind is that she has a slightly different character. She seems to like to be pressed that little bit harder than you would normally sail, just a few more degrees heel than you really feel comfortable with, and then she really starts getting into her groove. And for a 29-foot boat in, what do we have, about 15-16 knots of wind, she was doing 6.2, 6.3 knots upwind. That's pretty impressive for a small sports boat. Downwind, the J88 is every bit the classic J-boat. Big asymmetric spinnaker, retractable bowsprit, the characteristics that J-boats are so well known for. But she's a J-boat with a difference. She's got a much narrower waterline beam than some of her predecessors, and she's got a big powerful sail plan, and that can make her quite interesting at times. Just like when you're sailing her upwind, you have to sail this boat in the groove, and you can feel that groove, but it's quite a sharp-edged groove. Push her up a little bit too high and you get quite close to her spinning out. Sail her a bit too deep and she feels underpowered. So again, it's sailing in the groove that is key to sailing this boat downwind. When it comes to the jibes, she's a pretty easy boat to handle. Admittedly, we only had 15, 16 knots of breeze, but the fact that some of the control lines are so close to hand, particularly for the helmsman, means that it's easy to switch roles in and out if you need to. When it comes to hoisting and lowering the kite, then you start to notice that she's a bit bigger than your average sports boat, because most of the time the kite is hoisted out of the foredeck hatch and retrieved back down through it. Much more in keeping with a bigger boat. Well, she might have sports boat type performance, but when it comes to her deck layout, she's very much a straightforward racer cruiser style cockpit layout. I mean, overall we've got cockpit seating there, 2 primary winches, main sheet in the middle of the boat, tiller steered, backstay. It's all pretty much where you'd expect to find it. A couple of the details I like the fact that we've got a course and a fine tune on the main sheet here, but I particularly like the fact that when you're sailing, for the helmsman can get at both those main sheet controls and the traveller control and the backstay control if his trimmer, the main sheet trimmer, has to go forward to do something else. In the heat of the moment, I think that's a very important feature, and it just means that the helmsman's got total control of the back end of the boat if required. When it comes to the crew work further forward, where we've got these two seating areas here, the 2 primary winches, standard practice, and then 2 secondary winches here for the pit stuff. Again, very straightforward stuff. Main and spinnaker halyard there, Genoa halyard there, and really the key feature is going to be the kicker, which is led to either side, and you've got the in-hauler controls here for the jib tacks, but really pretty straightforward. And one of the great things about it is very easy to jump aboard and just get straight into it. There's nothing fancy about the layout at all. Interestingly, the forward hatch probably says quite a lot about where this boat sits in the market. She's more of a yacht at this end of the boat than she is a sports boat, because the kite's hoisted and retrieved through the foredeck hatch. Obviously that's not that common on a sports boat, but elsewhere she's much as you'd expect to find. Got a retractable bowsprit there. Interestingly, on this boat it has a furling headsail system. This is actually an option, and I'm told that actually I don't think this is going to be an option for future boats, and that actually future boats will either have luff groove or hanked jibs. Personally, I'd go for the hanked jib. Other than that, just as you'd expect to find. One of the things that will set this boat apart from some of her competitors is that down below she has accommodation, and again it's another indication of the little big boat approach that's been taken with this J88. So if everything is very much as you would expect, what is it that is going to make the J88 stand out? Well, I think the answer to that is fairly straightforward. The J88 is a development of the J70, and the J70 was a no-nonsense, all-out sports boat. Terrific fun to sail, but for some people she was a little bit too small and a little bit too twitchy. This boat, however, is a very good compromise between a sports boat and a small yacht. But what you don't want to do is underestimate how much fun she can be and how powerful she is. But overall, I think she's a cracking boat.